too, like Jackie said. Today we're going to wrap up the session portion that we have for you. We're going to be talking about one of those things that is a very critical part of the revenue operations job and function, which is fostering collaboration and influencing decisions. And I'm going to bring Sandy Robinson on stage, who is the VP of Revenue Operations and Client Growth over at Quavo Fraud and Disputes, to drop some knowledge on us and share a little bit to close things up for the session today. So come on stage, Sandy.
Let's kick it.
I love it. I love it. I am not a Gen Xer. No, not at all. Okay, today we're going to talk about collaboration and how RevOps can be more strategic. But I want to start off with a little story about RevOps problems. I want you to follow me here. This was my first week as SVP of Revenue Operations in my prior org. And I had this opportunity to meet with collaborative functional leaders across different parts of the organization, including my own CRO team. So I had an opportunity to go into this meeting and to ask them, what are your biggest problems when it comes to achieving your revenue plan? Tell me your problems. So, Mary, and these are made up names by the way, but this is a real story. Mary is the SVP of sales, and Mary says, HubSpot sucks. I hope you are here to fix it. I really hope you can fix HubSpot. My sales team, they spend all this time going through all this administrative stuff, and they just don't have time to sell. Like, okay, some of you laugh. Then there's Larry, and Larry, he has this look on his face, the VP of marketing. He's this look on his face. Like, you know when you walk out the back door and you accidentally step in dog shit? That was his face. Because guess what? Larry's the one who built HubSpot, and Mary just totally trashed it. But anyway, Larry's like, look, we had all these MQLs. We go to all these trade shows, we just crush it, we spend all this money to go out there, we give sales all these MQLs, and they just don't convert them. I don't know what happens, but sales just can't sell. So there's Larry. Then there's Josh. Josh is the CRO. Josh wants his pie charts. I want pie charts because I have a board meeting and I want pie chart. I want it to be on my board decks and I can't get them out of HubSpot and I just want my pie charts. Dude, okay, you want your pie charts. All right? Josh needs pie charts. Then there's Joe. Joe is the other SVP of sales. Joe's like, dude, my team, we're closers, okay? We close the deals. We bring in the sales, we crush the numbers. Again, we're closers, did you hear me? And then it goes to implementations, and they just drop the ball. It's like, it goes to the black hole, and I don't even know what happens, but it's their problem. Then there's Jamie. Jamie's the director of implementations. And Jamie's like, okay, well, we get all these deals from sales. That's true. But there's like zero handoff information. We have no information. We don't know what to do with these things. We can't even get a hold of the customers. They're like totally ghosting us. Then guess what? We have to cancel the deals. We just don't know what to do with them. So, boy, did I open a can of worms. My first week.
I'm so excited.
Yes, I was. It was interesting. So, where would you start? If you were me, you're in this role, you're at your company. Anyone start with number 1? With Mary? How about number 2, Larry? Is dog poop? Josh? What about Josh, number 3? Gotta keep the CRO happy. You need to give us pie charts, okay? How about Joe? What about Joe? Anyone for Joe? What about number 5, Jamie? Anybody? Okay, all right. So the answer is 4 and 5, because they're pretty much the same problem, right? It's a revenue problem. So we have to remember, we are here to drive revenue. And while all of those other things are symptomatic, and I swear that we have similar problems in every organization that I see, they're symptoms, right? But we have to start, where can we have the biggest impact? And remember that driving revenue is our job, right? Scaling. And in this case, Jamie wasn't even part of the CRO team, right? Implementations was on another team. But it's a big revenue problem. And so if you do this long enough, like me, I've been doing this for about 25 years. I started out selling Yellow Pages advertising like way back in the day. And I heard something, I'll check that, yeah, what is a Yellow Page, right? And I worked my way up through leadership over the years. And around 2012, I had a really amazing mentor. Her name's Sharon Schoffermeyer. She was our VP of Sales and Marketing, and she was like, look, there's this thing called sales operations. You'd be great at it. I was always into the CRM. I was doing training, taught challenger sales, all this stuff. And I had an infant too at the time, so she was like, you really need to do this. This would be great for you. So I've been doing that since 2012, and I've worked for public companies, services, SaaS companies, startups. I've been more of a smaller, I guess you call it scale-up at this point now. But I can see like the matrix, and I'm sure a lot of you can, right? You see all like, you can kind of just see through it, and like, I feel like Trinity. And I love ChatGPT for this, right? I love ChatGPT for this. I feel like Trinity, I can just see it. And I want to bat away those bullets and freeze everything in time. But how do you do that? How do you put together a strategy for revenue operations? How do you break it down and become strategic? So I have a framework I want to talk about, and the framework is called ICE. A little bit with that music there, right? So how can RevOps be strategic, though, when you think about the data that's out there, okay? So there's a study from the Revenue Operations Alliance where I got some of this information. But we think our jobs in this survey, 92% of people think KPIs and metrics is the primary job of RevOps. 78% pipeline strategy. 76% tech stack management. But only 34% of us said it was critical that to spend 30 to 50% of the time interacting with other stakeholders. But that's so critical. I have to collaborate. I have to interact. So how do we optimize our collaboration? How do we approach this as RevOps leaders? All right, investigate, collaborate, and educate. That's the framework. So you can apply this framework to your daily jobs and what you do. So I'm going to talk about each of these individually and talk a little bit about how I approached it in the prior org and in my current role, and share with you some results towards the end. Investigate. I look at this like a sales process. How do we approach things? Where are your data sources? Where are your reports? Ask questions. What's happening with the CRM, with the technology? All the new AI that's coming out. I swear, when you work for a technology company, all these really cool developers make their own bots. I just found another one the other day. We were rolling out a call recording tool, and one of the support developers was like, oh a tool that actually gets my call recording notes and stuff. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. And we want you to use this one. But people and process, investigate, understand each person, who owns what they do, how they engage with you. Think about that implementation handoff, right? What's happening there? Who owns what? You will find out a lot when you just start asking questions. Even if you're not new in the role, it's always a great time to just ask questions. Ask open-ended questions. Find out who owns what. I like to use the bow tie. All right, we got a bow tie. So there's like an hourglass, which is like the bow tie on the side. We've got the waterfall, all this stuff. Again, I like to map things out, process person, whatever works for you, but map out the customer buying journey, and then start to figure out what are your internal areas, where does this data live, and what tools live in those areas, right? We've got tons of tools. I did not put logos on here for a couple of reasons. One, I know it like triggers responses from people, although I think we all have a lot of good therapy partners here, but yeah, figure out where all your tech is, who owns what. I have one of these that has actually all the logos on it, and then I have another one that has all like how they're all connected and integrated and stuff, but just start there and continue to revisit this and ask across the organization. You will also be very interested to find like new tools pop up. Very interestingly enough. But you have to understand the tools, where they live, as it relates to the customer journey, because RevTech is anything that directly or indirectly impacts the customer journey at any stage in the life cycle. Right? So, have to go through that exercise. I think it's a critical move to do, but it will really help you understand by investigating this. All the while, you're meeting people, by the way, when you're doing this. If you don't already know them. If you're in a small company, it's a great exercise because you're going to find that somebody owns like everything. Like in our company, the CFO is like the owner of every tool. So we have to go to him for admin transfer and add you as admin and things like that. But anyway, collaborate. A great way to do that is get involved in cross-functional projects. Start cross-functional projects. Have one-on-ones, not just with your peers. There could be other individual contributors, could be a level up. Just start having a coffee talk even. Whatever works for you in your company or how the other person likes to communicate, just be proactive and reach out and ask those questions. Interdepartmental, so across the different roles in the organization, your peers. I know we have some people that we like to work with more than others. Try to learn and understand and put yourself in their shoes and what problems do they need to solve and how might you help partner with them on that. But really understanding this gets you a long way when you're trying to roll out some sort of initiative, because as we know in revenue operations, not every company is structured the same, and we're touching so many different parts of the organization. And then upward. I get down in the weeds so far sometimes that I have to consciously remember I need to do a QBR, I need to do an MBR, I need to make sure that I'm communicating properly, both informally and formally. And those projects and the deliverables at our company, we do EOS, so we put rocks in place and we deliver on those rocks. So I think it's really important to do that because that'll really help to get that collaboration, to get that buy-in, and to be able to move forward with projects and have things go more smoothly. So always be collaborating instead of always be closing, always be collaborating. A great way to do this is to build your customer journey map. This is when I started in my new role, and I have a tab for every, you can use whatever tool. If fancy, use Miro or something like that. But I have a tab for every part of the journey. So, lead stages, all the way over to renewal. And do your swim lanes, your exit criteria, but what this will do is it's going to build your process, but you have to go to the people, because if you look like all the way down this thing here, it keeps going. There's swim lanes, right? So we've got marketing in there, we've got solutions consulting, we have implementations or whatever the different functions that touch the customer along the way. It gives you an opportunity to go through and say, how does this work? Or when do you want to be involved? When do you want to be involved in the process? When do you need to be notified? So if you have solutions consultants or sales engineers, for us it's like at stage 2, they should get assigned to an opportunity, right? So we want the AE to engage with the solutions consultant because they're going to be getting into demos. But we need to ask them these questions. How does it work now? How should it work? So it gives you an opportunity to do that, map out how it is, and then map out what it is that you want to do to change, to improve it, and revisit it. Does anybody have a customer journey map? Okay, yeah. So, and once you do it, you have to revisit it at least once a year, maybe every 6 months, and really see where, where you have these challenges. But it's so helpful in collaborating. Educate. I like to over-communicate, if possible. Just ask my husband. There's so many different methods, right? I find that email just doesn't work internally. It depends on your organization. So understand the culture in your organization. I worked with HR because we have an internal system, like kind of a discussion board and stuff, so that's a great place for me to get messages out that will go more broadly across the organization. So I partner with HR to do those things, and there's chat groups, more formalized email messages. It's critical to continue to take that educational approach. So you have some sort of deliverable, but you're teaching them value. Not just, hey look, we made all these improvements, we did this, we made this change in Salesforce, we added this process, we rolled out Metric, blah, 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 blah. But what's the value? What's in it for them? Why do they even care about it? Because even though it's, for us, like, oh cool, we did all these cool workflows and put all these things in place, think about your audience, so always tie it back to the audience. And again, it goes back to sales. It's what we teach sales teams. What is in it for them? How do you uniquely tie what you are trying to deliver back to their needs? So your deck for an executive or your message to an executive is going to be different than your message to the sales team. Sales team is going to care a little bit more about how much faster and easier and less fields they have to fill out and how much more time it's going to save them, right? Executives are going to care more about, well, what was the impact on our win rates, or what, how for me can I see these things? So thinking about that, so always taking an educational approach with the things that you're doing and over-communicate it. Because it's so hard to go backwards and say, but I did this, but I did this. Do it as you're doing it. Do updates, be proactive about it, and be strategic about the message. And why is this important? Every company has these. Every company. I don't care how small the company is. Even within the CRO organization, you have VPs. And each one of us VPs, we have our own little budgets, and we have our own little culture, and our own little people, and you have almost like these mini silos within silos. So this becomes so critical because you have people like Jeff, who is at the top of the GTM Maniac silo. Where's Jeff? Yes, Jeff. Where's the third here? All right, and we've got Mallory, the Chief Chaos Coordinator. We've got Jen, who is the Smiling Marketing Officer. And we've got Tana, the Chief Rock Star, and Mark, the Chief Disruption Officer. And then we have Matt, the Chief Enthusiasm Officer. All right? We have all of these different functional areas. My last organization, we had 12 in the C-suite, and then it just kind of went down from there. So the bigger the company, the more silos you're going to have. So that's why the education is critical, and understanding your audience and what message you're delivering to the audience, because each one of these folks, they have a job they have to worry about, right? And they have their own teams and their own initiatives and their own things they need to worry about. So it's not about breaking down silos, it's about working across the silos, bringing people together on initiatives, bringing people together on programs, and educating them on what the value is of whatever the initiative that you're trying to push through. Okay, so this isn't just talk. I applied this in my prior role, and I told you, and that was a real story. I may have exaggerated the things they said and the names, but it was a real story. And when I got there, we did have problems with cancels. I mean, that was a huge problem. And there was never one solution. Okay, the thing you have to remember is people try to like put a Band-Aid on something, and they think they know the answer. Oh, I know what it is. You know, we need to do more sales training or whatever, right? But I mean, these are just a couple of them. We defined the stages. I did that customer journey map. We overhauled the handoff process. In fact, I eliminated that word. It's called transition process. We overhauled HubSpot. So we just basically put in a new instance of HubSpot because it was really broken. And so all of this, and change the comp. Don't get paid until it goes live. That changes everything, right? That's a good one. Very easy. Guess what? Cancel rate was down to 6% just within the time that we put this out in less than a year. So we put in consultative selling. So it was everything. We were solution selling. So we needed to get to more of a consultative sale. We had to qualify these deals. So we put in MedPick. So all these things, it was a big project. I had to get alignment. I had to educate. I had to investigate. I had to collaborate. I had to apply the ICE framework in order to get those results. So the key to remember from reactive to proactive is to apply the ICE framework. And so when marketing starts crying about their MQLs and sales starts pointing to implementations for dropping the ball, remember